This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business.
You only need to know me. I will be the one.
You guys already know the sponsor of today's video, Luffy's Smile. If you want a nice, bright, white, wide smile like Luffy's, hit the like button and the subscribe button to subscribe and stay updated on more One Piece content like this. Now you're probably thinking after that introduction that this video is about Luffy's smile, and it actually isn't. I'll be making a video on that in the future, however, because I think Luffy has the most iconic smile in all of manga and anime, but feel free to disagree. It's something I mentioned on Twitter though, so feel free to give me a follow there as well at Vinland Ragnar for more takes like that. But instead of Luffy's smile, let's talk about Luffy's hair. Changing hair as a means to express a significant power-up is something various works of fiction, various manga and anime do. I'm sure you guys can think of several occurrences of this already. I'm making this video prior to chapter 1044 though, so it could be wrong, but I might come back to add some information if I am. But at the end of chapter 1043, we see Luffy and his hair or whatever is surrounding his hair or his head is transforming. Now we don't know what the outcome of this will be yet. It could be that his hair is becoming rubber or resin or a sap-like latex, in essence, a visible expansion of his rubber abilities via an awakening that changes him and can potentially change or affect his environment. The result of this would be his hair stretches or becomes longer maybe. Now, given how it looks in chapter 1043 at the end, some fan art depicts it as dreads or dreadlocks. Who knows what Oda will decide to do, we really can't say. But Luffy has finally become JOYBOY, or at least, JOYBOY has returned. The sun god Nika has arisen once more, and we should see this change in Luffy, a visceral depiction of Nika's revival, perhaps with Luffy resembling the sun god in some ways. Before we talk about this mind-blowing hair theory, a theory that I just realized I touched upon in an old video, some of you might remember it, and one that some of you in the comments have brought up to me in terms of a recent video from Uteron, where he apparently goes over Luffy's afro in connection to all of this. I also thought of something given a connection that blew my mind, and it ties into something Sawyer had said a while back about awakenings, how they might have created or left a legacy behind via their impact on the One Piece world. But before we get into this, Oda, as I've said before, is inspired by Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Without Dragon Ball, it is likely the One Piece series that we know and love today wouldn't exist. You can see Dragon Ball's influence not only in the art style, which was Oda's main inspiration, but also in some of the arcs, character personalities, and relationships as well. Luffy being the main focus here, and Luffy having a striking resemblance to Goku at times. Speaking of Goku, he's a character that made the Dragon Ball series iconic due to one moment, when he turned into the legendary Super Saiyan for the first time against Frieza on planet Namek, arguably the most memorable moment in anime history. It's interesting that the team that worked on Dragon Ball, I think it's Dragon Ball Super's anime, is now behind the animation for Wano Kuni. It's interesting that just as Goku became a legendary figure, Luffy is now becoming a figure of legend as well. JOYBOY, or the sun god Nika against Kaido. And this appears to be happening with a similar transformation because it might emphasize a change in Luffy's hair or overall appearance. I would also add something I have been beating the drum about in past Gear or Awakening videos, and that is the connection to the monkey god or monkey king Sun Wukong, a staff or some kind of weapon. A direct inspiration for Goku's power pole, you could argue. But in a prior video I point out that Hyogoro the Flower, the man that taught Luffy the nature of Haki Flow, Ryu, in his prime can be seen with a flowing hairstyle, and so a hair flowing with energy. This will be important, so remember it. Just as I believe Luffy's new godly powers will be inspired by the Wisdom Kings, Hyogoro in this mode, with his flowing hair, assumes a form that resembles a Wisdom King, a guardian deity or god. Luffy also faced off against the god or kami of Skypiea and Nell, who assumed a final form called Max 200 million volt Amaru, or Max 200 million volts Thunder God, an ultimate technique where Enel becomes pure electricity and resembles a Raijin, like lightning figure, a mythical thunder deity. And now, before getting into Luffy's own here, let's expand upon this topic of gods. This is kind of verbatim from what I point out in the Sun Wukong video, but the people of Wano were said by Okiku to worship Kaido as a dragon deity. For whatever reason, I think it was said or implied the statue in Onigashima that Ace and Yamato destroyed was built as a form of tribute to him, but don't quote me on that. More importantly, as a dragon deity, Kaido's Wano-bound reputation is said to be connected to the Wisdom Kings, who are Buddhist deities, and so gods. According to chapter 921, the residents of Wano consider Kaido as a Wisdom King, a protector or guardian of the country. The Fire Festival is the day for the shogun and his subordinates to go to Onigashima to pay their respects to the wise king or Wisdom King Kaido, which is why the Fire Festival exists in the first place. Now that I think about it, maybe Kaido has a Wisdom King transformation of his own that we haven't seen yet, beyond the dragon forms we have seen. A final form, maybe revealed with his awakening if his dragon form is not an awakening that parallels the awakening of Luffy's Gomu Gomu no Mi and whatever change is occurring right now. Kaido going from a fish to a dragon as some believe, I'm still not sure about that though. But more importantly, there is currently a fire festival in Wano as there was during Skypiea. Skypiea also making mention of the sun god Nika. Not everybody was destined to be a YouTuber, and there are other ways to get your content, your theories or analysis of manga and anime out there. Squarespace. Squarespace is an amazing online platform in which you can create your own beautiful website where you can create a community with fully integrated interactions through comments and likes and just like other social media platforms, but better. On Squarespace, you can connect with your audience through members-only content along with email communications and leveraging audience insights. There are awesome tools to help you manage your inventory and even bookkeeping. You can even automatically push website content to your favorite social media channels so your followers can share it too. And so, go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and whenever you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Vinland to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. But briefly going back to a video about Luffy becoming the Flame Emperor, the Sun God, I think there might be a connection between the fire festivals held for the sun god Nika and Skypiea, as you can see here, also relevant to JOYBOY, who based off an African or Caribbean deity, as well as the fire festival currently being held on Wano, a country that is waiting for the return of JOYBOY. This Odin having told us on 2 occasions. That is to say, Kaido is another false god akin to Skypiea's Kami Enel, a god of thunder or lightning. The natural enemy of lightning being Rubber, Luffy a carrier of the will of D. These being the enemies of the gods, and so Imusama as well. It's likely the story is repeating itself wherein Enel, whose final form took on the appearance of a Wisdom King, was defeated by Luffy. Kaido will experience the same defeat as he even wonders aloud for whatever reason about the arrival of JOYBOY. If the juxtaposition of Luffy and Enel is one of a true god, the return of the sun god versus a false god, a false or fake kami, and a juxtaposition of Luffy and Kaido is one of a real JOYBOY versus the false JOYBOY. Maybe the fire festival on Onigashima will return to being a celebration of Wano's true guardian, the sun god Nika, the sun that will rise as predicted by Binks Sake. If the minks of the world, like Pedro, await the dawn, this might relate to the opening of Wano's borders. The moon that Toki said is unaware of the dawn. The minks and Wano having a long history together even. Their beliefs and fate, hopes and dreams somewhat intertwined. And then there's Skypiea and the light of Shandora, the light being in the sun. The sunshine Luffy lets shine as his final fight with Enel begins. The bell that rings upon the defeat of the false god, the sound of freedom. And so freedom, freely flowing here kind of personifies a free person, right? It's not like someone trying to keep up appearances at the office. It would seem then that Luffy's hairstyle will be greatly influenced by the real-life inspiration for JOYBOY. The West Indian character JOYBOY, also considered a Haitian music spirit, the Caribbean and Congo spirit of the drum, again the drums of liberation. JOYBOY's hair then having a more curly quality, whether it be an afro or dreadlocks. We'll see what Oda decides to do with Luffy's. But going back to what I said about Hyogoro the Flower and his flowing hair, how he taught Luffy that haki, whether it be Armin haki or Conqueror's haki, that haki can flow. Conqueror's haki being the power to fight with your spirit. Spirit then can flow, beyond flowing haki to a weapon or beyond your body as Luffy is now able to do. I had wondered if the flowing of spirit would also be somewhat key to awakening and spreading your powers beyond yourself, if the same knowledge could be applied there. or maybe merely an expansion of will, the greatest hockey balloon Luffy's experienced thus far. There is an old video where I talk about Luffy and the power to conquer all things, the very world around you, even the sea maybe. How Rayleigh had asked Luffy if he had it in him to conquer such powerful oceans, to conquer this wild sea. Luffy's response being a callback to Roger's words, and how he told Shiki he had no desire to conquer anything, no desire to control this world, and the seas start to tremble thereafter. This reminds me of the Will of D, the D relating to Luffy's smile at the end of chapter 1043 as we had thought he had died. The D's smiling upon their death for whatever reason. How the D are also said to bring about storms, stormy weather. When you look at Goldie Roger's Jolly Roger, you see his mustache, but it is designed in a way that looks as if the waves are moving, the ocean currents changing. The mustache, his hair is flowing like the stormy waves. The Jolly Roger then has a sort of energy to it, as does Hyogoro's flowing hair. Flowing hair that even gets some focus added to it when Luffy enters Gear 4 Snake Man. What is Oda trying to communicate here? Well, I think it ties into the spirit, and one that is overflowing with energy, a strong will, a spirit that expands and evolves and just maybe can affect the world around them, which might tie more into Luffy's conquering spirit, and why Luffy is only awakening now after reaching this level against Kaido, cracking the very sky in their clash. An expansion of his spirit and voice that in a filler scene in the anime was said to be one trait of a true pirate, one with a voice that can split the heavens, as we see an image of Roger in the background. Now, not wanting to conquer anything seems at odds with being a conqueror, and a strong one at that, an advanced one. It is also at odds with the meaning of the word Nika, as taken from the Byzantine history, and what is known as the Nika Revolt, or the Nika Rebellion that took place in Constantinople. There used to be a chariot or chariot races, and fans in the audience would cry out the words Nika, which has been variously translated as conquer, win, and victory. In the Nika Revolt, this was the cry the rioters took up. So maybe Nika the sun god was a conqueror of some kind, a warrior in addition to being a freer or emancipator of slaves. The Nika Revolt or rebellion stemmed from a protest of the emperor for continuing to pursue an execution of two men after the initial attempt had failed. Seemingly fortune, luck, or fate had spared them, which reminds me of Luffy surviving his own execution in Logtown, a bolt of lightning happening to strike in that very moment, and it being attributed to luck. But during the Nika Revolt, as they protested, the crowd chanted Nika, Nika, and soon after violence erupted, before the rebellion was ultimately crushed. Who knows how this might relate to the history of Nika in the One Piece story or JOYBOY in the future. But in terms of flowing hair, the main takeaway from the design of the sun god in Nika is yes, flowing hair. Hair that flows in the wind, hair that is wild and free. It even looks like a flickering flame, fire. The flames are fiery edges of a sun. This hair seems full of energy, even the playful, joyous demeanor of the sun god Nika, which is fitting given the overlap of Nika and JOYBOY. JOYBOY being a West Indian character who personifies the human need to dance, sing, and jubilate, a relation of the Lord of the Dancers, who inspires festivals in colder countries. JOYBOY smiles perpetually at all the foibles and problems of mankind and cures human troubles by tapping out an irresistible rhythm on his drum. Whoever hears the music of JOYBOY, it is said, is compelled to dance and sing along until he or she has shaken the black cloak of despair from the shoulders. Some jazz players even claim to have captured JOYBOY's rhythms, but their efforts are a pale imitation of the dance frenzy, the intense energy which can keep humans dancing until they drop. And so energy, JOYBOY, the sun god Nika being an energetic individual maybe. And now going back to Hyogoro's hair, he has a move called Dohatsu Kohai, infuriated light worship. Hyogoro swings his sword slowly and charges at full speed to slash through multiple enemies while leaving some kind of fire generated by unknown means behind. The name of the attack also alludes to Hyogoro's flame-like hair. The word Dohatsu means infuriated, but the individual kanji meanings are angry and hair. It is apparently called flaming hair or holy rage in the Viz translation. And so another hint of Nika and maybe Luffy or his Wisdom King transformation's fiery hair as well. But another thing about JOYBOY, Nika, and Luffy's hair and energy, or an expansion of spiritual power, is how JOYBOY is an African and Caribbean spirit. There is some debate as to the relationship of the Caribbean to Brazil, culturally, but some influences do exist as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. For example, cultural expressions based in the Caribbean like Rastafari and the wearing of the dreadlocks has reached the shores of Brazil. This is from what I researched, but this influence here is fitting given old theories on Luffy's family and the Shandians of Skypiea, how they seem like indigenous peoples, indigenous or native people having originally populated the Americas, North, Latin, and South America, where Brazil is located. And this region of the Americas included the Caribbean. Oda had said Luffy would be from Brazil if he were a real person. And so combined with JOYBOY, we get Caribbean, Brazilian, indigenous tribes, and slave history all in one. Luffy's Gomu Gomu no Mi, the rubber resin devil fruit, being tied to Brazil's rubber trees. Luffy appears to be a very earthy type of character, an earth element in a way, putting that loosely, very attuned to nature. Luffy's rubber devil fruit can be manipulated by Oda to extract various properties of rubber then from latex or resin, and trees are powered in a way by the sun after all, sunlight. Sunlight giving trees energy. There are also several sun gods from this region of the Americas. Luffy's hair, his energetic personality, the playfulness of JOYBOY and the Lord of the Dancers, and the connection to the rubber tree leads us to consider now this final point. So there's an island known as Long Ring, Long Land, and it is characterized by a few things that might pertain to the current storyline in Luffy's awakening. Sawyer 7 Mage had pointed out that maybe a previous user of the Gomu Gomu no Mi had stretched various animals on the island by passing on properties of rubber to them. The animals that live here are unique in that they are all longer than normal animals in some way. One reason given for all the animals growing so long, stretching as it appears, is because they are able to live freely without feeling any restraint, mentally and physically, on the great wide plains of this island. This concept of stretching and being free also ties into the Gomu Gomu no Mi, rubber. But from this island we do get some more interesting information to consider. So someone had mentioned to me that Uteron said the Afro scene of Luffy will be important. So I went back and took a look at that scene that has for so long been a meme, given one of the fan translations. And what I read was mind-blowing. In chapters 313 and 314 it is stated that Luffy's afro or new hairstyle makes him stronger, a foreshadowing maybe that Luffy's new hair is going to relate to his new powers. We see Usopp and Luffy enter a locker room to prepare for Luffy's fight against Foxy, and Usopp tells Luffy to wear the afro wig that he found. Next, Usopp tells Luffy one of his typical lies, and understand that Usopp's lies tend to come true, right? But Usopp tells Luffy that this hairstyle summons a man's wild instincts, an awakening of his deepest, latent, primal powers. Powers that he did not realize he had. Champions wear it. Winners. Conquerors. This hairstyle will make your punches stronger. It even changes the way you talk. Now, who knows if Oda will depict everything that was stated here, with whatever new form Luffy unlocks? Will Luffy talk different? I don't know. When we see Luffy again though, wearing the afro, ready to box, he has a new tattoo on his chest and stomach, a cross bones carving out an X, prior to receiving an X after being burned by a Kainu later on, so maybe a foreshadowing, and a flaming skull with fiery hair. And also, curiously, similar to Zebek D-Rock's Jolly Roger kind of. Maybe Ace is a better comparison though. Were these two also candidates to be the Sun God or JOYBOY? In terms of boxing, Luffy is seen on the color spread of chapter 1028, boxing a monkey or gorilla, and Luffy has fiery hands as boxing gloves, and fiery hair like Nika, and so if he gets the hair of Nika, if he becomes the Sun God, I won't be surprised if he conquers Kaido. Nika again meaning to conquer, wild instinct, primal nature, wild energy kind of like a monkey man or Tarzan. Maybe this is what Oda meant when he said his audience wouldn't be satisfied if Luffy defeats Kaido just because his punch is so strong that there has to be more behind it. Luffy against Foxy also fought or boxed monkey-like opponents, Foxy even commanding a gorilla puncher that could punch so fast the punches lit a flame, taking us back to the color spread of 1028. Flaming punches that Foxy says burns anything they hit, that even the god of the sea would burn. Dragons in the form of Ryujin, the Japanese dragon god, being the god of the sea that ruled the ocean and protected Japan. Maybe this hints at Kaido, who again was said by Okiku to be seen as Wano Kuni's guardian, a dragon god, a wisdom king. But going back to the rubber tree and Luffy's devil fruit, there is a tree known as the Yarukiman mangrove, which is capable of producing a special tree sap, resin. This resin ties into the theory of Luffy's Gomu Gomu no Mi, or rubber having an awakened property, an expansion of ability that would be resin or latex or tree sap. In the anime's English dub, the trees are called the hustle muscle mangroves. The tree's name is a pun on the Japanese phrase which means to be pumped up, motivated, or to have a lot of energy. And so again, here flowing with energy, Nika depicted as a high energy figure, a hyper-energized spirit. As for the name Hustle Muscle, we know that muscles relate to one of Luffy's gears. But the main takeaway from Luffy's fight with Foxy is how his hair is constantly alluded to as a source of power. Nika means to conquer, but it also has a connection to one's smile in Japanese, a smile that never wavers, not even in death or on the brink of death, a smile that conquers all. No matter how many times Foxy knocked Luffy down during this arc, he kept getting back up. And even Foxy begins to believe Luffy's afro has some secret power, that his hair is giving him some ability, something making his will to live, to win stronger. Luffy declares that to save his Nakama, he will fight to the death, and considering chapter 1043, how Kaido wants to enslave Luffy's Nakama, just as Foxy wants to steal them from him in a Davy Back fight. The chairs of Nika I mentioned earlier, victory, victory, they echo here as well, if only with different words. In chapter 317, deafening cheers for Luffy come non-stop from the audience, his friends, his Nakama, and even his enemies rooting for him to win. We then see Luffy and Foxy exchange a series of blows, and Foxy wonders how can a dying man, someone that was just on the verge of death, have so much power or strength left. After Luffy's final blow, we see him knock Foxy out of the ring, sending him flying as he had promised to do to Kaido. And just as victors have been declared during Onigashima, Straw Hat Luffy is declared the winner. The will to win, Nika. The will to live, the will of D. Maybe there is something to all of this after all, and we'll find out more with Luffy's new transformation. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. Don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click that notification bell. As always, there is more to come. Until next time.